Okay, everybody. So today, I'm hoping to help you all understand exactly what you need to do to get through the leveling process. So right now, we're just having pop-ups of stuff from where I bought a collector's edition way back when. But what we're in right now is actually the tutorial area. You're just going to do a handful of quests and just kind of follow the path as you go. Just making sure to double check the objectives at the top of the quest, and then the quest description can be found directly beneath that. And then after that is the reward. Basically, you're just going to be following one single quest line through this entire area. It'll kind of lead you from A to B. One key thing to keep in mind is that particularly on the League, the last boss of the tutorial will actually drop an item. For the Empire, I think it's just one random mob that does. But just make sure that you pick it up. If for whatever reason you get this big flash afterward, the bag will still be on the ground. So you don't have to worry about that being an issue. But once you complete the tutorial quest, which just kind of teaches you how to play a game in general, play an MMO in general, you're going to be teleported to what I would call like a newbie island, depending on which faction you are. In the case of the League, it's literally an island that's like you're like shipwrecked on. And then for the Empire, you're going to like a resort. But basically, it's more the same. The biggest thing to keep in mind is from here on out, you can also get side quests. Main quests are all golden scrolls with a yellow symbol inside of it, versus where side quests are gray or white scrolls with a yellow symbol inside of it. I'm going to go ahead and show the talent tree. Something to keep in mind is that talents cost more and more talent points with each skill point they have put in them. Your first 3 skills all have their first point put in, so it costs 2 talent points to upgrade anything from 1 to rank 2. And it costs 3 talent points from rank 2 to 3. So when the game gives you rank 1 in all your first 3 skills, after that you can put in a single point into a skill you've not learned yet. So they give you 2 talent points so you can pick which one you want to upgrade. But this is basically the only part of the tree you're going to have access to until you're level 10. Basically, just kind of focus on the skills that do the most damage as quickly as possible. In fact, like right here, this is the first time I've played a warrior class, so I'm sitting down and just kind of looking at what I think is going to cause the most damage to be able to increase my damage per second. Because unlike most MMOs, Allods does not have a auto-attack system. In fact, all the classes have been tooled, so that way they don't ever use a basic attack at all. They all have either skill builders, or they have some kind of cost to their abilities. Like, for instance, the Warden archetype uses mana like a standard caster. What I'm about to do after this teleport happens is that I'm going to actually try to show off a quest type. When I turn this piece in, this quest in, the objective, if you'll notice, the icon after this is turned in, but if you notice on the scroll icon, there's like a sun icon. That's what's known as a world mystery quest. Those need to be completed to obtain skill points, both in the free-to-play and the pay-to-play server. What you do is they're just one big long quest chain, and the end result leads to that. I was showing there that your map can kind of show you where you need to go. This is once you hit level 6, you will get access to more talent points as usual. But you will also gain access to this explorer's chest. And what it does is it will give you a small stack of loot boxes, basically. They're not really it's not random, they're preset for each class, but they're these little boxes with loot in them, I guess is the best way to put it, that are all blue gear. And so what they do is it replaces all of the gear that you need, more or less. You're going to have everything that you absolutely positively will want just from these boxes. Do keep in mind that if you're playing a character that is a sword and board, or like a sword and shield, or like a single-handed weapon and a shield, it is probably best to unequip your weapon first before you open the blue boxes, because it will replace replace your weapon with a new one. So if you don't have anything in the slot, it's going to pick the highest damaging weapon, and since you're not using a standard attack, you're not going to be limited by the speed of your weapon through your skills, and your skills are all dependent on your weapon type and the damage rating of your weapon. I also showed that you get a mount and you get an extra bag through that follower's chest. So right here I'm just showing where it replaces your gear with blue gear, and then showing the stat difference for getting it. Proficiency is probably a pretty good stat to get while leveling, just because it's just a straight percentage increase to your damage output and your healing output. All of the other, and vitality is a direct increase to your health total. Determination is more effective when you're dealing with PvE content, just because the longer a fight goes, the more damage you do. And brutality is more of a PvP thing, because what happens is you cause like horrendous wounds is the idea. You actually restrict how much someone is capable of being healed in combat. I'm also going through these extra special stats because they've changed a little bit since the most recent update. So it's just kind of going over it, but they're kind of self-explanatory. I think probably the biggest... each class will have a specific stat that they prefer. For instance, in the case of Warrior, they prefer Supremacy, which reduces the costs of skills as well as increases the damage output. But like Swiftness, for instance, will reduce global cooldown on certain skills to a minimum of the global cooldown of 1.5 seconds. I'm showing here that you can actually auto-move to quests. You don't have to manually walk. As well as showing mounts. The mount that you get does not require feed on the pay-to-play server as expected, but on the free-to-play server, the first mount you get will require feed. I'm now showing after the tutorial area has been completed. I'm actually coming into Lightwood, which is right outside of Novograd, the League's capital city. Nezhevgrad is the capital city of the Empire. This is the first time that you'll actually be able to do any kind of group content, as well as be the first time that you have access to doing parties. Up until this point, you more or less been having to run solo, but now you can see other you not only can see other players now as compared to the newbie island, but you can now party up. What I'm showing here is actually the Keeper of Secrets. This is going to be important for both factions. It's just in a different location. But what they do is they actually give you rewards that are racial abilities, skill points, and rubies, which will be for your skill grid. And here I'm showing off Mira, which is important for your abilities that are given to you for your patron. Patronage is important purely because of the fact that the higher level your patronage is, you have both your patron level as well as your patronage level. Your patron level will only affect whatever stat you have being modified by your patronage, so it'll give it a buff of some small amount. But as you level it up by using your patron skills, such as your what's it called? Is it Salvation of the Martyr? Anyways, it's that purple skill that's on my hotbar. Every class gets it. It will heal you over time. It's kind of like an out-of-combat rest. But it requires Mira to use. Mira is also used later. I'll explain it in more detail once that occurs. But basically, it's for patronage. If you're on pay-to-play, you don't have to worry about anything else. If you're on free-to-play, you'll also need to make sure that you get your hands on some incense. What I'm showing here is once you hit level 10, you will actually get access to 2 chests, as well as you will gain 2 talent points upon the level instead of your standard 1. And you will also gain a ruby, which will, from every level from now on, you will gain a ruby until level 47, I believe. You'll obtain a ruby, which can be put into a stat grid. So right now I'm trying to decide which skill I want to put 3 points into, since going from rank 2 to 3 costs 3 talent points. So it's not uncommon while leveling to just hang on to your talent points until you have enough to upgrade the one skill you want. So now I'm looking at the talent grids. Basically, think of like having like a kinged piece in checkers. They can move in any direction, but only in a cardinal direction, so up and down, left and right. So they cannot move diagonally. But you can only move from spaces that are highlighted into spaces that are not. So each grid you start in the dead center and you work your way outwards. So it's really important to kind of sit down and look at what you need. On the pay-to-play, no big deal. Just go pay a little bit of gold or a little bit of silver. And depending on what your level is, it gets a little bit more and a little bit more expensive, with the exception of I think it's before level 10. It doesn't cost all that much at all, if anything. But on the free-to-play, you actually have to have a cash shop item to be able to reset these stats. And to reset these skills. So make sure that you're confident in what you're looking at. If for nothing else, just kind of pick something that kind of makes sense. The best foolproof way to build a character is to just pick the starred skills. They're preferable. They're recommended by the game themselves, basically to do solo content. The same is actually with your talent tree. It will have skills that are starred. Basically, work your way from top to bottom and max them out from top to bottom. And in the case of the talent grids, there's not multiple points you can put into each spot. Instead, each spot will become the next rank. Each spot that looks the same will become the next rank. But more or less, just kind of feel it out. Just kind of look through stuff. If you see a skill that you like regularly use and something says it's going to boost it, or if you pick something that's just a straight up stat boost, you can't complain. I had wished that I had picked up a skill called Pack of Punches, in the case of the warrior, because it adds stacks that make your blows stronger, and your blows are how you build up your rage meter, if you will, to spend on skills. And I wished I'd picked it earlier, but in the end I got it anyway, so it's no big deal. But kind of getting an idea of what's ahead on your tree and getting familiar with what's there, just because certain skills in your talent grid will actually refer back to skills that you may not have access to yet. So it's always best to just hang on to not picking skills that you can't use. Now, if it's sometimes those are actual abilities, like I know in that warriors, paladins, and what are they called? Demonologists actually have the ability to taunt, and it's actually in their talent grids. It's literally someone giving you the finger is what the icon looks like. But this is just me showing, kind of working through my thought process of what would be best to use. So I think I ended up buffing my thrusting attacks, which are all the ones that require my rage mechanic instead of my energy. More or less after that, I'm going to end up opening these chests that you gain access to at level 10. One of them will give you access to a disobedient mount and a purple weapon. And then the other one will give you a stack of blue gear chests. The purple weapon will come in a purple chest. Disobedient mounts, I can go ahead and kind of cover that a little bit, are actually restricted in the fact that they cannot be fed. So on free-to-play server, you don't have to worry about feeding them. But they only last a short while. You only get to keep them for a short period of time. And that time is determined by how long you're actually on the mount. Just like how feeding works with regular mounts on the free-to-play. So something to keep in mind is whether you're using a disobedient mount, no matter which server you're on, that you do not want to be on your mount unless you are moving somewhere. So basically, once you stop moving, just get off the mount and you won't waste its time. But the plus side of these disobedient mounts is they're faster than your basic mount. So you don't have to worry about dealing with the situation of needing to feed your mount. So on free-to-play, it's great because it's a means of going faster and you're not worrying about feeding your mount. And on pay-to-play, it's great because it's faster than the mount you have for a while you have it. So it's a win-win. Just the biggest thing to remember is to not stay on that mount just standing still, just because that timer kind of ticks down. On free-to-play, it's blatantly obvious how much time you have left, and on pay-to-play, they hide it from you, but it functions identical on both. Something I can go ahead and mention is the game does have a... The game does have like a, a quote-unquote collector's editions, and basically what that is you can pay for a special event-style cosmetic kit set that all has a big theme tied to it, and that's what all that mail is in my bell box that I've not opened yet. I was intentionally trying to avoid it because I know myself too well that I won't be able to keep myself from using it, and I wanted to kind of get a fresh player's experience to be able to kind of best explain how to go through this in such a way that makes sense. So this is just me double-checking the follower's box and the recruit's chest. So I get the Disobedient Wolf's collar. In this case, the Disobedient Wolf is no faster than your starter wolf. It just looks a little cooler. So not a whole lot to write home about there. But so I've got a couple of things sitting in the mail, so just kind of ignore that icon in the corner. All right, I'm showing here that when you get to dungeon content, you do not need to panic. You will be given a skill called the Mercenary's Contract, which will allow you to call a mercenary captain to hire mercenaries to help you. They're NPCs, and they just have some basic AI. I recommend when going through dungeons to bring the Rowdy Brow, Matron Light Hand, and I forget the name of the archer. But anyways, you need DPS, healer, and tank, and then you're just kind of there. This is Purgatory. When you die, you come to Purgatory, and you have to wait for an amount of time, equivalent to about what your character's level is. But you can spend Mira at the Goblin Spirit at the front. He's over off to the front and to the left. To revive. So that's the other thing you want to focus on when you die. So keeping Mira is important. This is me showing that when you level up your patron level, you actually get a bigger buff to your stats. So always make sure to use your Martyr's Salvation out of combat. Just kind of popping it as needed. Maybe even more so when it comes off cooldown, just tap it and then start moving. Just because you need that stat buff, especially on free-to-play. So what I'm going to show here is that you can actually right-click on your quest tracker where it says, like, challenging the orcs. What I've done is I've actually right-clicked the quest itself, and I've clicked it to track it, to mark this quest as current. And what that does is all quest targets will now glow, even if they're like an inanimate object. So I could do this, like if I'm struggling to find like bushes or to find like rocks or something, I can right click it and click mark as current quest, and they will be highlighted. I'm showing here where I've gotten stuck that you don't need to give up completely. Try to move out on foot. If you can't do that, hop up on your mount, see if you can get out on your mount. And then if all else fails, you can use your hero stone, which is Adventurer Stone, which can be found on your character sheet. If you're League, you'll have it after your tutorial is over. If you're Empire, you have to get it just a little bit afterwards. This will also serve a dual purpose of getting you back to where you need to be as quickly as possible. This is me trying to show that. So you can use it outside of being stuck as well. For instance, I've just completed a quest and I want to go back to the Quiet Harbor. All I have to do is wait for that timer to go out. If I get attacked by anybody, it will knock me out of the cooldown, out of the channel, per se. That takes me back. But it allows you to teleport to any teleportations location. What I'm showing here is that you can use a currency called Marks of Fate, which you earn 1-for-1 with your experience points. You can use them to auto-complete quests. This is most useful, particularly when you're trying to do a bunch of quests and things get a little bit grindy and you're just kind of getting a little wore out from the area, because you do get a small amount of experience for spending the Marks of Fate. This is also a little detail here of me just showing that when you go to see a new portal keeper, make sure you talk to them, make sure you pick to pull up their actual window, just to make sure that they get locked in. Some portal keepers will actually have a small quest that will directly request you to check with them. This clip here is just showing you can find new adventures. If for whatever reason you've run out of main quests to look for, make sure you click that first. That way you can be directed to a new area that's level appropriate. Once you hit level 21, we reach the last detail, the Mysterious Lands. If for whatever reason you find yourself at a content drought and you're incapable of doing quests because they're too high level and you don't want to do side quests and you don't want to grind on mobs, you can come to Mysterious Lands. It'll automatically spawn a mercenary captain. What you're looking for are specific adventures it can put you on. These adventures all include the sub objective, Protect the Spirit of Light. These objectives are specifically the highest experience rewarding quests you can get. The difference between this mercenary captain and one you would summon in a dungeon with your mercenary contract is that these mercenaries are completely and utterly free, versus using your mercenary contract does cost you money for each mercenary you summon, so the fewer the better. This is me showing you when you get there that the most important thing to remember is that during these missions that you need to protect the Spirit of Light, and enemies will spawn right beside the orb, especially when you first start. So when you protect this orb of light, make sure that you stay fairly close. Some other pointers when doing this area is that if you've got a ranged attack, always pop it. Make sure that you hit a target, because you're not going to get any experience unless you or one of your party members hits it. So if you use a ranged attack and just hit your target, you're going to guarantee that you're going to get a large amount of experience points for each kill. The quest experience I was getting for around this level was roughly around 2,000 experience points, and I'm getting, like, I think it's 16, anywhere between 500 and almost 2,000 experience for each kill. When you complete the last boss fight, because there's 3 elite monsters you have to kill, once you complete it, the quest will automatically complete. That part of the adventure will be over. And if you're lucky, you can get multiples of those in one go. You may be unlucky and have to do them over and over again. But you will get recruit chests of different rarities depending on how well you did. So you will always be geared using this. The only problem is that you can't use this to get to in-game and still have plenty of, rubies and talent points. So you have to do questing. Hopefully, this guide was of some help. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And like the video if you found it helpful. Hopefully I can see you again next time. And hope you enjoy your time in the game. Again, this guide does help with free-to-play as well as pay-to-play. I will see you all next time. Peace.